Okay, I'm so impatient. I bought a mic, but because my last one broke and I haven't used a mic in a long time, but now I'm filming without a mic. It's all over the place. My heating didn't work, now it does. All information you didn't want. Anyways, getting into it, which is how to write a love letter for an avoidant person. Because I'm going to preface this with a lot of context, which is, first of all love letters, I think, are really easy to write, says the writer. I know, the irony is not lost on me. It's really easy to write for a secure person. Like, secure persons are the easiest person to write for because they don't take things the wrong way, and if they do, they communicate it. And anxious person is relatively easy too, because at the worst, they will need more. Like, they will need another love letter, and they're kind of well for approval. Sometimes it's endless, which it's its own problem, but it's a very different problem. Whereas with an with an avoidant person, I think a love letter can go wrong much easier, much easier than it can go right. And I've read the whole book on attachment styles. I love psychology, I've always have, and I find it so fascinating. There was actually this clip, maybe I'll find it and put it here, of Margot Robbie talking about The Wolf of Wall Street.
When I first read the scripts, granted it was an older version of the draft and the role was much smaller and one-sided. And when I first picked it up, I read her for what she was, and I thought, oh, she's just a superficial gold digger, and I have no interest in playing that at all. I started reading the script, the scene. My acting coach said, "Stop judging her," and I was like, "I'm not judging her." She's like, "Yes, you are. Why are you judging her?" I'm like, she just seems like a bit of a gold digger, don't you think? She's like, she's got no money. She comes from Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, and the only thing she has is this influence over men and this way of manipulating them with this like sexual power. That's her only form of currency, so she's using it to make a better life for herself. She's a badass. That's awesome that she's not afraid to do that. And I was like, you're right, that is awesome. And then we kind of built on that, and that ended up being, you know, the foundation for the character, and it just got bigger, and we started meeting it out and adding dimensions from there. And you know, I just started loving her, and now it's, you know, my favorite character I've ever played.
It's interesting that you explain it that way, because I've never had an actor tell me that they hated the role when they first read it.
And that's the thing, you have to like the character you're playing, otherwise you can't justify the things you do. And if you can't believe in the things you're doing, the audience can't believe it either, and then it's an inauthentic performance.
I just really wanted to ask you about meeting the real Naomi in real life. Her name is Nadine. What was the
performance?
I just really wanted to ask you about meeting the real Naomi in real life. Her name is Nadine. What was like the one question that you wanted to ask her when you finally met her?
I was having trouble motivating doing the horrible things that I did in the film, like leaving him when he goes to jail. One of the things I said, oh, would you fight about the hookers and him sleeping with hookers? She was like, I don't give a shit about hookers, they're hookers. He's gonna enjoy having sex with me more than having sex with hookers. Why would I care? And I was like, oh, okay, wow. And she was like, and I was like, well, what would you fight about then? She said, the drugs. Why would I let someone on drugs around my baby? And I was like, oh my God, that's it. That's the key to this character. She's looking out for her kids. And so that was the most helpful thing. From then on, my motivating factor for everything was out of protection for my kids. Initially,
I know, did you think that was where I was gonna go? Probably not. And she was talking about her acting coach being like, don't judge the character, don't judge the character. And she's like, yeah, but it's a gold digger, blah, blah, blah. And maybe I'll put the clip here or have the clip be in between this. And basically the gist of it was like, yes, but she kind of romanticized it in the sense of like, well, she has no money and her looks are kind of her only currency, and so she swaps her looks for money. Am I agreeing with this? No. Did Margot Robbie agree with this? No. But it was a way for her to play the character without judging it, because you felt it. And I think, since we're talking about writing in general always, it's always a recurring topic, I think that's what you have to do as a writer. You cannot judge the character, because people feel it. And that doesn't mean you don't have a favorite character. That doesn't mean you don't think one character is a good person, one character is maybe not a good person. That doesn't mean any of those. But you cannot judge the character, like looking down on the character, because you're not going to write the character well. That doesn't mean you don't insinuate things, and it doesn't mean you write them exactly the same. Like, you don't write the protagonist and the antagonist the exact same way. Of course, there is a bias. You're not going to pretend to be completely neutral. You're not a journalist. And even journalists, I mean, they try their best, but they're not always super neutral either, because they're human. It's really hard to be neutral. And then robots can be neutral, but then they're really bad. Have you looked that up? Like, have you asked AI how many times AI is wrong? And it's like 60% or something. I'm like, 60% of the time I'm Googling things and it's wrong? That's a bad rate. Anyways. And so that's the thing with characters. So I always like to read up on psychology, and the avoidant person doesn't like pressure. I think that's a huge thing for avoidant people, is they don't like pressure. And I think the secure person doesn't see a lot of things as pressure. They kind of don't take them as seriously. And I think the anxious person takes them very seriously. Like, they take every word very, very, very seriously. At least at the beginning. Anyways. But I read the whole book, so I'm summarizing a little bit. If I were to exemplify you, because you might not want to read the whole book, but you do want to see, is this person avoidant, is this person secure, is if they are dealing with a strong emotion, what is their reaction? I think a secure person is probably going to need a little bit time alone, or they can straight away communicate, but it's like a flow and an ebb in like the ocean. Whereas an anxious person is going to need to communicate all the time and kind of can't sit with it alone at all. And an avoidant person is going to need a lot of space. Avoidant people tend to be people who need space and who need breaks and who need, like, I mean, it's in the name, avoidant. Avoiding. Anyways, you can look up the traits, but maybe I'll put the traits here as well. But writing for an avoidant person is really interesting. Also, I want to preface this, avoidant people and other links are not completely linked. Like, there's a lot of things that people attribute to avoidant people that I think are a misnomer that can be linked but aren't necessarily linked. You know what I mean? I think someone talked about it, where there's like the malicious avoidant versus the, I don't know if it's benevolent. Maybe that's the word. I'll look it up later. But the benevolent avoidant, which is the person who just had maybe a childhood where they had so many responsibilities, or they just took on too many roles and too much already, that they're like, I don't need more. I did it already. And so writing for that kind of person it's quite difficult, because the sentence of "I want to be with you forever" sounds really romantic, but to an avoidant person it sounds like, oh my god, forever. Like, the idea of marriage sounds really romantic. If to an avoidant person it's like, and then the government gets involved. And then the government, and look, someone can have one thing and not have the whole thing. Like, people can have avoidant tendencies, people can have secure tendencies. You tend to be secure and then have avoidant tendencies, or be secure and then have anxious tendencies, or be avoidant and secure. You don't tend to have secure tendencies. But someone can have like an avoidant tendency, doesn't mean they're avoidant. But so a lot of things that are really romantic to an avoidant person are not romantic. A lot of things that are really romantic to the other two groups are not romantic to an avoidant person, because it actually just sounds like more pressure. So you're like, okay, so what probably sounds romantic to an avoidant person? Also, I think huge misnomer is that women can't be or are less often avoidant. I think maybe less often. I think that's a fair guess. Whether that's a product of like women, interesting. Why could that be? Maybe because women tend to stay with their children, whereas men don't, and so more women have daddy issues than men have mommy issues. Not that none, but like maybe by quota, like by 100 people, by 100 children, like the quota of men that leave versus women that leave there's probably going to be a discrepancy. Also because kind of, for the most part, the woman is the last sayer of if I want a child or not, versus the man is not. In I'm not going to go too far into this discussion, but kind of. And so but that doesn't, even if it's less, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's the same with, I have a Substack article about this, which is Weathering Heights. And just because people say, oh, women are more emotional, which I do think so, like, just even hormones wise, like, yes, they are, like, for the most part, at least I am. Maybe every other woman on the planet is like, no, I'm just the most sound person on earth. I'm not. But just because hypothetically men have less emotions doesn't mean their emotions are less valid. And there's something to be said about, like, flip it in reverse. Like, women are less physically strong, does that mean their physical strength is less important? It means it's less important in the sense of like you're gonna more likely ask a guy for help with something physically than a woman, but it doesn't mean you're less gentle with them. It actually means you're more gentle because you know they are weaker. And in reverse, if you have more strength and you have that muscle more, you're better at it. If you have more emotions, you're better at processing emotions. But that's a whole different spiel for a whole different day. But where was my point? Avoidant people. But there's a lot of things that I do think avoidant people do find romantic. And I think one of the big things that avoidant people do find romantic is someone who likes them. And you're like, isn't that marriage? Isn't that this? No. Someone who likes them. I think the worst thing you can say to an avoidant person, again, I'm just riffing off what I think, this is my opinion. And if you're an avoidant person, leave it in the comments, especially if you're an avoidant woman. Also, avoidance versus like horrible behavior are not mutually exclusive, and I don't mean to excuse any behavior, because there's a difference between like someone tends to be more avoidant and they maybe need a little space, and that is just their little flaw, the same way an anxious person can be a little bit more insecure or whatever their thing is as well. But that doesn't excuse horrible behavior on either side. Do you know what I mean? Like this is another thing I love to bang on about, which is emotions are all fine. Behaviors are not. Thoughts can all be discussed and be a conversation. Actions, no. Like there is a line, and the line is what you do. Like, you know what I mean? And so, but we're talking about just the emotional, like, architecture. Please don't come to me for relationship advice. I have no idea. And so, but an avoidant person, I think the biggest compliment is that you like them, because that's the thing that they're missing. For example, an anxious person, because we're going to use those two as parallels because they're the polar opposite, but actually exactly the same, which is an interesting concept, I know. But it's good to have like the juxtaposition between the two. Like an anxious person, if I were to write a love letter for them, it would be like every other love letter, just more intense. But the hugest thing is commitment. Like an anxious person wants commitment in forever and time, and it's not that they don't want that specific person. I don't believe so either. Like I do think they fall in love with that person. It's not just like, oh, anyone, no. But their biggest compliment is not that you fall in love with them, but that you want to stay with them, because clearly there's like an abandonment wound or something around that. Whereas a avoidant person, there's usually not. Again, there's exceptions, and I'm not a psychologist. I just like reading for fun, these kind of things. It's not an abandonment wound. It's usually the opposite. It's usually people who have like smothered them or put too much pressure on them, or something of the sort, or they just don't like pressure, whatever the root is. But it's usually like they usually don't have an issue with like, oh yeah, of course you want to be with me forever, of course, like whatever. It's not a compliment to them, because to them time kind of has no value outside of it being time, whereas them, like you fell in love with them, who they are, like especially their flaws. Like if I would write a love letter to someone who was avoidant, I would definitely write about their flaws and about, don't be like, you suck, you're horrible. Like no, that's not a love letter, that's a hate letter, please don't do that. But I would much more point out their quirkiness or their oddness or the things that I disagree with, or not in a mean way, but they find more compliment in that you see them in their entirety, and that you don't want to change them, than an anxious person finds compliment in like forever. Whereas an anxious person, if you tell them their flaws, they're like, what's happening? Why? What did I do? Like, that's not a compliment. Again, you don't want to go like above and beyond, and you don't want to like just be roasting them. But you want to write like a normal love letter. You want to kind of stay away from things that are a lot of pressure, not because you don't want to discuss them, but because a love letter is half of the equation is the recipient, the same way a gift is. oh my god. I mean, I'm not confident about. I'm not good, better way phrased, at a lot of things. You know what I'm fantastic at is giving gifts. You want to know why I'm fantastic at giving gifts? Because I give the person the gift they want, not the gift I want. You know how many people give gifts they want? And I'm like, I didn't want this. You want this. Do you want me to hand it back to you? Like, what's happening? And that's okay. Like, people are good at different things. I'm not criticizing. I mean, I am, but but that's the same with love letters. It doesn't mean you can't like a cup. It doesn't mean you can't like this. It doesn't even mean you can't have a discussion about it later. But when you give a gift and when you hand a love letter, you are also considering the recipient of it. And so if I were to write a love letter for an avoidant, I would stay away from the words of forever and pressure and anything that has a time to it, because that's not a compliment to them. I would refer more to their flaws, to their weird quirks, kind of like make them feel seen. I think that's a great thing. I think, I guess he's just like running in my mind all the time. I think Lord Byron would have been fantastic at avoidant people, for avoidant people. Not in a good, healthy way, but like avoidant people would have fallen in love with him so quickly. Because this is something I pointed out so often, and I don't agree with everything, or honestly most things that Lord Byron has done at all. But what something that Lord Byron does really well is he's with you. Lord Byron is like, if we put it into modern terms, like Lord Byron is the person who you go on a date with and you're like, oh my god, this was wonderful. It was funny and it was this, it was that, it was that. And then he doesn't call you ever again. That's kind of Lord Byron's vibe. Or you go on a couple dates and then it's like, and that's kind of a Lord Byron's vibe. But Lord Byron isn't, maybe he is a little bit. I can't imagine Lord Byron being like forever is a compliment. He was much more like focused on the person right there. Again, I don't agree with most of the things he's done, but he's a good example of, he's a good like archetype to refer back to. And also I listened to so many episodes of a podcast about him that I just need, this information is just lingering on in my mind anyways. And so that he would have been great for avoidance. Not in a healthy way, so great is the wrong word. He would have broken some hearts, but he already did, so you know what I mean. Ugh. Anyways, so compliment their flaws, compliment their weird quirks. Stay away from complimenting the flaws with the things that are big. Okay, like if it's a career-driven woman, I don't want you to write, I just love that you just failed your exam. I think that's adorable that you're an idiot. Like, don't. Even just scratch out the idiot part, even that sentence without that word. That's not, no, please don't. It's more things like, I love that you color coordinate your pens for the exams you're about to take. Or I love that you have like your outfits planned out for the whole week. Or and I know you're probably like, how is that a flaw? It's not a flaw, I guess, in the traditional sense of the word, but it is so it's either flaw, like mini flaw, or specific characteristic that's like specific to them, like something quirky, something weird, something like odd. Like, do they have lucky socks? Do they have this? Like, literally think of when you write a character, and if you would be writing a character, what would make them stand out? Because, let me, spoiler alert for every character you ever read, it's not their job, it's not their profession. Did I mention the same thing twice? It's not their friends, it's how they show up in their job. Are they on time? Are they not on time? Are they, like, I was just in a shop. Oh, that was fun. She says about every shop she ever enters me. I love shopping. Anyways, I was just in a shop and these two ladies were talking. Yes, I eavesdrop, and I quote my eavesdropping. I am like an intensive like eavesdropper. It's horrible. If you see me out in the world, keep your conversations to yourself. But and I guess she was asking if she could go on holiday because the other one was going to work, and she's like, yeah, of course, like go on holiday. And then the other one was like, oh my god, I can call my kid, like I'm so excited to go on holidays. And the girls react, like woman, these are all adults, I don't know why I said girl. woman's reaction to that woman being so happy, that's the character. She was really happy that she could make someone else happy and was like, yeah, don't worry about it. And that's someone's character. It's not the job the specific job they work. A lot of women were working at that office, at that thing, at that store, but it's that. It's also that woman, the woman who was about to call her kid. That's her character. That's the thing you want to point out. It's not, oh, she works at that store. It's not that she has lip filler or not. It's not this or that. It's, oh my god, she's so excited, and the first person she wants to call is her kid because she gets to spend Easter with the kid, which honestly gives me chills. It was so cute. And so that's the person's character. That's what you want to point out. It's, do they bring muffins when someone has a birthday? Do they stay late hours? Do they stay early hours? Are they maybe more of like a goal-oriented money person? And if they are a goal-oriented money person, why? Why? Usually an avoidant person is a goal-oriented money person for someone else. I've not never, but I have very rarely met people who like money for the purpose of money. And honestly, even for the purpose of bags or this or that, I'm not saying never. And of course, like a nice bag, some nice shoes are nice. I'm not denying that. And women do like that. I'm not denying that. But if you dig a little deeper, the shoes give a better posture. Maybe she didn't have so much confidence. Now she has more confidence with the shoes. The house, she didn't have a stable household at home. Now she wants to provide a stable household. She really wants just money. What is it? Oh, did her parents not have a lot of money and now she's saving up money so she can retire them early? Like, there's usually a reason for money. It's or it's a real passion project and a love for the game of it. Yeah, that's true. There's something. But even then, it's the passion project has a reason. Passion for the sake of passion is not a thing. Like, why are you passionate about it? That's something else. I guess this is going to be a really long video. I'm so sorry, but I'm also really not sorry. I'm enjoying this. Which is the, like, passion project for the purpose of passion project is not a thing. Because what lights you up about it? Like, I'm a writer because I'm someone that looks at that. Like, that situation I was telling you about, I would look at that. And I would remember that, even if I didn't tell you now. That would be something I was like, oh, interesting. And I've always kind of been like that. I love observing people. Like, I love when I go out. Sometimes I'll have like 5 minutes where I'm just like sitting alone and I get to observe people. Granted, at some point you look weird if you're sitting alone and you're just like looking at people. But I love people watching. And I also have the whole series of writing about people at a cafe and just like looking at strangers. And I think it's so interesting how humans are and how they interact. And so yes, it's a passion project and it's something I love, but it's also something I love because I love it all the time. I love it even in simple interactions where I can see like, oh, I misunderstood the person because I was emotional, or they misunderstood me because I just hurt their feelings and so they kind of stopped listening. Like, these kind of misunderstandings and just how humans work. I love, and that's why I love writing, because you can kind of portray it as a third person or first person and just portray those misunderstandings really, really well. And also another thing with avoidant person or with people in general, a good rule of thumb is you don't go too far. You don't go too far. Because I'm telling you all of this and you can think all of this, but you don't go too far. You don't say, well, I think you earn money so you can pay your parents' rent because your parents didn't have enough money because your parents, and then you just like, no, like there's a stop point. I'll tell you where the stop point is, where the compliment ends and the analysis starts. Because first of all, you're not a psychologist. Even if you love reading it like I do, you're not. So you actually don't know. It's just a good guess. And if they take it as a huge compliment, your guess is probably accurate, but you don't know the ins and outs of it anyways. And you shouldn't try to. You're not a psychologist. Also, you don't want to rehash some underlying trauma or a bad experience in a love letter. So you do want to cap it at some point. You want to go, yeah, like let's say like this is a huge thing. People want to retire their parents early. I love that you work so hard so you can retire your parents early. It really shows how much you care for them or care for people you love, or they must be really proud of you, or I hope they understand how much work you put in for them. I hope they understand that your love is not just a word, it's not just a feeling, but it's an everyday action, which is such a compliment. It makes me feel so comfortable because then I know your love is always an action as well. It's not just a word, it's not just a compliment, it's an action or something like that. You do not go you don't go further, okay? You don't go any further than what you went there because, first of all, you might not be right. And even if you are, don't rehash any childhood trauma in a love letter, please. Especially with an avoidant person, they're gonna read it and be like, oh my god, now they know all of me. I feel so, like, psychologically naked. Please don't do that. And that's I think a huge thing. What else would I tell you? To stay away from, or to... I would chill on the like, you fixed me compliments, because that can also feel like a lot of pressure. Like when someone's like, ugh, I used to be so sad and then I met you. My god. I mean, it is a huge compliment, but it's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of pressure to put on someone. And it's also, like, it is meant to be as a compliment, I understand it, but it also very much sounds like the bar is on the floor. You know what I mean? Like, if someone's sad and you make them happy, that's very different than if someone's already happy and you make them happier. It doesn't mean, like, it shouldn't be the case, and it's great that they make you happy, like, great. But I would leave those out, because that, again, can sound a lot like pressure. That's not to say you can't ever verbalize what you think, but I think it's different when you verbalize it whether you write it down. It's the same with presents. I think presents is a wonderful metaphor. You can have a house and buy teacups you like, and furniture you like, and jewelry you like, and all of the things you like. Of course, like, it's your house. But if you buy someone else a present, buy them a present they would like, not a present you would like to receive. And it's the same with love letters. You can give that compliment. You can obviously honestly communicate. That would be ridiculous. So I'm like, just start lying. Please don't start lying ever. And I'm not saying lie in a love letter either, at all. Because as I've said, like, if you start lying in a love letter, they know themselves. Oh, I guess this is the last point we're going to round this out with. Don't lie in a love letter. This is a recurring thing, but also with an avoidant person, don't lie in a love letter, because the main theme, and then we'll go into why with an avoidant person specific, don't lie in a love letter because they know themselves, and at the very least someone else knows them, so they'll read the love letter to someone else, or they'll read it themselves and they're like, that's not me, they didn't really get to know me. And especially for an avoidant person, that's a huge insult, because then I think an avoidant person's kind of worst nightmare in some ways is like being cast as the person, like the feeling of being cast as the role of boyfriend or girlfriend, or the role of a you shall be my love interest. Like, people take castings for roles in movies, and that's can be like a paranoid fear of an avoidant that someone else is doing that like that. And so I think staying away from that is super important. Also, like, the gist of a love letter is it's supposed to be the physical representation of love that already exists. So if you have to lie, then don't write the love letter. Don't write the love letter then. Like, either wait until you fall in love or don't write it. You don't need to. Nobody's waiting with their clock and, like, they got to this age and they still didn't write one. Especially an avoidant person. They're not waiting for a love letter, don't worry. But they would appreciate it, and I don't think they would take it badly at all. Again, I don't know your specific person. I'm not a psychologist. Like, I'm also not talking about actions. I'm just talking about the, like, the basic psychological makeup of an avoidant person. I'm not talking about if anything else. Okay, anything else, you need a professional. Even, like, to evaluate if they're avoidant or not, you need a professional. But I think this is something fun to talk about. So, yeah.